Hello, my name is Tomasz Setnarowski, and I would like to welcome you to the first episode of my new art tutorial series called Drawing Within a Drawing. In this series, I'll try to introduce you to the world of imaginary, illusionary drawing. We'll start with talking about basics. I will talk about art supplies we'll be using in this series. Later on, I will teach you a few techniques that I use, mostly techniques that allow us to transfer a sketch or image from one piece of paper to another. And before the end of this video, we will start working on our first project, so please stay with me. Before that, however, I would like to answer the basic question. What is a concept of drawing within a drawing? The answer is very simple. It's a collection of smaller images grouped together in a certain way. And when looked at from a certain distance, this group becomes a totally new image. I know, it may sound a bit complex, so in order to give you a better idea, please have a look at a few samples of my past work. I'll see you right after that. So, what do you think? I hope you like it. And please, don't be discouraged with the complexity of some of these images. It took me years to get to that point, but I promise to start with something really simple, really basic, really joyful that anybody can do. Let's start with talking about art supplies we'll be using in this series. The medium of my choice are pencils. However, it doesn't mean that you cannot explore any other techniques. If you would like, for instance, to go with a larger scale drawings, as you notice probably, I'm using relatively small formats. You can go with graphite sticks. They will help you to cover larger areas much quicker than using just a regular pencil. You can also try to add some color to your images using, for instance, color pencils. How about oil pastels? A very friendly and joyful technique. I used to do a lot of art in the past using these guys. And of course, all the painting techniques, whether it's an oil, acrylic, watercolor. Hey, the sky is the limit. You're the master, remember. Let's focus on the technique of my choice, pencils. In most cases, when you get them from your local art supply store, they come in sets like this, or a set like that, or a set like this. In this case, there's only 6 pencils, but there's a little bonus. Your own eraser and sharpener. Hey, full package. You ready to go? Going back to the set. In most cases, they come in sets like this. This one contains 12 sticks. And even though they look pretty much exactly the same, they're different. There's a group of very soft pencils and a group of really hard pencils. The soft ones are marked with letter B, and the hard ones are marked with letter H. H, hardness, B, black. What the real difference is? Hey, let's try them up. Let me put them in a proper order. Okay, so let's test them up. I will create a little table here. And let's mark them up with the grade on each and individual stick. So that's gonna be 5H, that's gonna be 4H, 3H, 2H. Then there's no 1H, it's just H. And then there's this little guy that I forgot to mention. This individual guy couldn't make up his mind. Do I want to be a B-type pencil or do I need to be a H-type pencil? So he decided to call himself HB. Something in between. So let's leave a little gap. This is this little odd HB guy. And then we have B, 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, and 6B. Let's start with the hardest one. As you see, it's a very light shade. 4H, tiny bit darker. 3H, going gradually darker and darker. That's 2H and H. Now there's this little odd guy. Neither soft or hard. And then we move on to soft ones, B-type pencils. That's B. That's 2B. Not much difference, but we'll see. 3B. Oh yeah. 4B. 5B, and the softest 6B. So here we go, from the hardest to the softest. What do we need other than pencils? Just a few things. A sharpener. Sharpener, something that you can keep them sharp. So whatever you like, whether it's something like this or this little guy that came with the set, or a knife, doesn't matter, as long as your tools are ready and prepare the right way, you're good. We also need erasers. Hey, nobody's perfect, so from time to time there's something that you have to correct, and then eraser come handy. I just use these two guys. I don't have a preference when it comes to the brand of eraser. You just have to test them up. One thing I wouldn't recommend, it's eraser pre-installed on the pencil. In most cases these are office pencils for people that don't really care, but believe me, these guys are not perfect, and definitely that's one thing that I wouldn't recommend. When it comes to erasings, of course we end up with those little shavings, and of course you need to remove them before continue your drawing. So one thing I wouldn't recommend is to do something like this. In most cases it works, but hey, we're just humans. And in some cases, when you want to blow, you spit. And the last thing you want to do is to spit on your own drawing. That's why I would recommend a very soft nylon brush. Very easy, and it will not affect your drawing. There will be no smudges. And that's pretty much it when it comes to all the supplies that I would recommend and I personally use. But as I said, feel free to use anything. Whatever works, whatever makes you happy, and we'll be fine. Before we start our first project, I would like to teach you a few ways of transferring image from one piece of paper to another. We will be using those techniques, because there will be basically 3 of them, extensively. Which one you prefer, it's totally up to you. The first and the simplest one is a regular tracing paper, pretty straightforward. I bet most of you are familiar with that. So let's say you want to copy something from that image, you just put it underneath, and whether it's just a piece of an image or the whole thing, doesn't matter. You just copy the element, a part that you want to transfer onto a new piece of paper. Let's say that's this little dolphin here. Next, you just flip the page, and using very soft and applying it very gently, you just apply a bit of a graphite on the back, then you flip it back to the way it was before. And let's say I want to have this dolphin transferred onto that piece of paper, so all that's left is basically just trace the outline of your subject, and here we go. This is our dolphin. Very simple, not much to say. There's also another technique that I use. It requires a bit of a setup here, but let's have a look. You'll be the judge. For this technique, we would need a frame with a piece of glass or plexi, doesn't matter. No mat, no nothing. That's an old frame that I will never use for framing artwork, but it comes handy when it comes to transferring images. So, this frame will have to kind of float above the table level in order to create enough room to put the light source underneath. So for that reason, I will use whatever I found in my garage, some buckets. Okay, let's put them like this. A little podium, and then when you put your frame on top of that, and with a light source, in this case it's one of my studio lights underneath, it creates a little projection from underneath, and now it's very easy to see through and copy your image. One thing I would recommend when you do this, turn off all the other lights. Just leave the one underneath, and that will increase the visibility of the drawing underneath. So that's the second technique, and let's move on to the third one. And the last technique of transferring images between 2 pieces of paper is a window. An old technique. I used to do this when I was in school, and we used to copy our favorite cartoon characters. You attach your source image first. On top of that, you apply a blank piece of paper, and it's very easy to see through and copy elements or entire image depending on your need. So doesn't get any simpler window technique. So here we are. I think we're ready to start our first project. How cool is that? For this episode, I've selected something simple. Very simple, very basics. It'll be based on freehand drawings, so there is no limitations. You are free to do it the way you like. The sky is the limit. Lots of possibilities. This is the part when your creation starts to kick in and you can go wild. So, what's the subject? For this first episode, I've selected a portrait of this gentleman, Abraham Lincoln, one of the best known politicians in the history. Why him? His face is very characteristic. The beard, the hair, the shape of the face. When you base your drawings on faces, I would recommend to go with faces of older people, kids, toddlers. These faces are pretty uneventful in terms that they're very symmetrical, very clean. In case of older people, this is like a mirror. This is like a story of the life. You can see that this guy must have gone through a lot in his life. So let's see what we can do with Mr. President. Let's start our first drawing. We will start every single drawing in that series from the same step. We need to evaluate the image in terms of darkest and the lightest areas. In order to have a good starting point, we need to reduce then this image or convert this image to something looking like this. Basically, we're eliminating all the in-between shades and we're leaving only solid white and solid black. How we can do this? Well, remember 3 techniques of transferring images that I showed you earlier in this episode. For this one, I will use a tracing paper. So, what we have to do is basically outline the darkest areas. It doesn't have to be really precise. I mean, as long as you not go really out of the contour, you should be fine. So just like that, the darkest parts. Let's do the beard. Very characteristic feature of Lincoln face. Eye area. As I said, you don't have to follow every single wrinkle. You just basically trying to find the overall shape of an eye. Similar concept with the nose, upper lip, and the shadow on their lower lip. Something like this. And that's pretty much what we need. So now, when I remove the original picture, basically, more or less, this is what we need. And of course, this image is very simple, but some of these images that you will see in the future episodes will be a lot more complicated. There is only few black areas in this case. In some of them there will be a lot, so you don't want to mix them up. So the best way is to just to notice that, yeah, this is dark, this is dark, this is dark. This is just a sketch, preliminary sketch, so don't worry about going beyond the line. This is just to help yourself with distinguishing between dark and light area, just like that. So here we go. It's a very good starting point, and now let's move on to the next step. This is when your imagination gets to work. This is when you can loosen up and go wild. This is the moment when you have to be creative. Why? The idea is to find in these shapes different objects. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can assume, oh, this drawing will be about landscape, or this drawing will be about human figures, but in this first basic tutorial, I don't want to limit you to anything, and I decided to create something simple. So when I look at this image, especially at that part, what I see is fish. Why? This particular moment looks to me like sort of like a tail fin, and if you go that way, there you go. That's my first fish. This oval behind that first one looks like somebody behind the fish in front, so maybe, hey, there's two bodies that's going for a little walk deep inside the ocean. This side, the right side, let's see what that could be. I mean, it doesn't look to me like anything that resembles fish, but if I put an eye, and let's say add a little something like that, what do you think? What do you see? I think it looks like a seal to me. There you go. So basically you follow that pattern and you start filling up the areas with whatever comes to your mind. I will stick with a fish subject, so as I said, this is very generic, very basic. It may not look like something, but believe me, before the end we will have a nice scope of happy fish. What about this guy here? I don't know. Let's leave him like this for now. We'll see what it is. This part here, there's the shadow. There's the shadow behind the cheek. Hey, look what we have here. Oh, looks like a dolphin, beluga. Hey, I'll leave it up to you. Same with this area. We'll get to that point later. And of course, you don't want to limit yourself only to the source image. You want to create the whole story. So we'll be adding up a more individual fish just to build up a little composition. As I said, this project is about loose freehand drawing, so we're not focusing on any specific type of fish when you have to be very specific about the fin shape, you know, follow all the features on the fish, stuff like this, you know, eye position and shape of the tail fin. So basically what I'm using is a simple pattern: oval head, whatever shape of tail. We can put any fin you want. If you want to make it a shark loop type fin, nothing wrong with shark type fin. So let's start filling up the areas outside of the face with our imaginary aquarium. That's our first fish. This one is looking like it's making a sharp turn. This one is going the other way around, swimming away. Maybe this one doesn't like what we do. Hey, nothing wrong. Come back next time. We'll be working on something different. So yeah, this side starts to look sort of promising. Let's add up a little guy over here. Another happy fish. Okay. Another happy fish. As I said, we'll take care of all the details later. There's another one. Maybe a little one here. It looks like sardine. And sardines like to live in groups, so we'll give him a little buddy, tiny little sardine. I can chat. Hey, look at me. Okay, so here we go. Ignore these guys. This is a little composition. I think a good start to the next step when we'll be getting more into the details. If you feel like there's only fish and you want to spice it up with something, let's add up a little octopus. Happy or sad? Of course happy. Hey, look at me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, I'm an octopus, not sextopus. I need 2 more arms. Okay. Just kindly ask Thomas and he will add you. There you go. Now, happy octopus. There you go. Okay, so we're done with a preliminary sketch. It looks promising. So let's move on to the next step. Let's transfer this onto the piece of paper, the actual piece of paper where we will be completing our final drawing. Remember 3 ways of transferring drawings from, let's say, tracing paper onto the actual medium you'll be using to complete our project on. For this one, I'll use the first one. Basically, I will flip over my tracing paper, grab very soft pencil, in this case 6B, and I will just cover it up softly. You don't want to press too hard, just enough to transfer a rough outline of what we came up with, just like this. Doesn't have to be very dark, and you don't want to press too much. it'll work no matter what. So just this little guy, our octopus, a fish to the right. This guy, these guys don't count. So yeah, I guess we are ready to start transferring our drawing. Okay. Turn out a bit dirty, so let's use a clean page. Okay, so before we start transferring, make sure that your drawing is sort of like centered. I mean, it's up to you. I think it just looks better when it's centered and well balanced between two halves of the paper. That looks about right. And now I will use one of the H type pencils. They a bit on the harder side and they better for that purpose. So let's see how it's gonna work. Nice. Fan. Still, remember, this first project is very loose, very informal. If there is something that doesn't go our way, don't worry. This is just to give you an idea how the process looks like. We'll be repeating the same steps in all of our future tutorials. Hope you will like them, and we will be seeing each other on the regular basis. There's a lot of very interesting and surprising images to come. Now, beluga, dolphin. Oh, why are you so sad? Don't be sad. I'll make you happy later. That's our seal. I mean, this is just a creation of my imagination. Probably it's not the best seal ever drawn, but should be happy it's here with us. Okay. I know it looks a bit cartoonish, but I was just trying to find something without getting into sophisticated details. So it looks like we are almost finished. And okay, make sure it's 8. Otherwise, the octopus will not be happy. Will be handicapped. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. Okay. Oh, I think I forgot a detail here. So yeah, that's a good moment when you can make sure. You should make sure that all the lines are there. As you see, I forgot this little piece over there. So let me just try to kind of. You can check like classical animators check by flipping up and down. Okay, that looks good now. Okay, so yeah, we have just completed our next step, and we're getting closer to start working and finishing our first project. Before we start working on our piece, since this is the final drawing, we want to keep it clean and avoid any dirts. Pencil is a very nice and friendly technique, but the graphite tends to make a lot of mess. I mean, you see what can happen. And let's say if this is your drawing and you work on this area, but your hand is positioned on top of part of your drawing, I mean, you start to cause a lot of problems. As you see, I just moved my hand a few times, and look what the difference is, right? So you don't want this to happen. So what I do is I just take a piece of clean paper, put it on top of a drawing, and I position my hand on top of this blank piece of paper, so anything, just like you see here, anything that can happen will happen on that piece of paper, not on our drawing. But anyways, so let's start working on our final piece. We will have to outline, sort of like trace it up again, and make these lines standing up a bit more. Still, even though it's a final piece, if you're not happy with something, like, I'm not sure, maybe I would like this fin to look more like that. Yeah, you can still correct what you just came up with, just like this. Very easy. Still a lot of margin for little edits here and there. Oh, it's two little guys. I think these are my favorite characters on this drawing. Hey, a little sardine. Yeah, we didn't forget about you, buddy. Okay, so let's move on to the bigger elements of our drawing. Those are two guys. This guy has a big eye and is happy, and this guy, smaller eye, and is listening to that guy talking, because this guy talks a lot and this guy is like, So there's our guy in the eye. Second guy, nose shadow. This fish is kind of weird looking. So now our beluga guy. And our seal. I'm not sure if this seal looks like a real seal, but it is what it is. This is not a animal channel presentation. This is our art tutorial, so we have a freedom of doing whatever we like. A little octopus, a happy octopus, and two less fish. this guy down there. There you go. Oh, forgot about lips. There you go. Next stage. Next stage will be adding a bit of a dimension. At that point, it's all sort of like a wire-ish. It's like a build up with a thin wire. It's flat, it's two-dimensional. We want to add some depth to this image and build up plans to have this sort of 3D effect. Okay, let's start working on our first fish. By adding a bit of a third dimension eye. What I'll be doing here, I'm adding sort of like a zebra pattern just to emphasize the oval shape of the body. Pointy head, something like a shark. Those dark kind of fins. When it comes to the pattern, as I said, I'm applying something looking like a zebra pattern, but let me just explain something quickly to you. We have a fish. This is what I'm doing, right? Zebra, or I don't know, maybe like a tiger pattern. That's what I'm doing. But feel free to do anything. You can do ovals. Okay? Or you can do, I don't know, maybe something like a checkerboard. Anything you feel comfortable with, or you can just add a bit of a dimension just by filling it up and gradiating your shades. Like you see, this fish starts to look like a real fish. Anyways, that's just a little tip. So let's continue. I think this pencil is too hard. I'll grab 2B. So this is, and of course you don't want to spend all the time working only on individual fish. You just want to start kind of filling up the whole image, just building it up kind of on an even base. So not focusing only on one or two, just adding up to all of them and slowly, slowly come to the final effect. I'll do it very kind of quickly. You can spend as much time as you want on this. I don't want these episodes to last forever, and they will become kind of boring, and the last thing we want is to get bored with something that's supposed to be fun. So basically you're just following the same. You can be more loose on the smaller fish. Remember, these areas are supposed to be dark, so you can kind of add a bit more darkness to that eye area. And so on. You're going one by one, filling out the areas. So let me work on that, and I'll see you in a few minutes when most of this drawing is filled with some basic features that will help us get closer to the final image. Okay, I see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I paused the video for a few minutes. I didn't want you to get bored, but basically, yeah, I kind of touched every single object. So now I hope you see a difference. They look more 3D than before, and overall it starts to look exactly the way I was expecting it to look. And basically the next step would be to work on all of them again and apply fine details. It's a slow process, so it may take a while, but just bear with me. I'll be kind of skipping some parts just to show you exactly. When you do the eye, remember about this little white dot, that what makes them look alive. Yeah, so this is the part when I start to use more and more frequently those soft pencils. This is 2B. I'll be moving on to 4B, 3B. I tend not to go over 4B, but in some cases when you really want to emphasize something, this is 2B. That's 5B. Let's just sharpen it up a bit because it's dull. There you go. So in case of eyes, yeah, 5B. See how dark it gets. So this is for those finishing details where you make it looking kind of really sharp. But as I said, I'll be slowly working on that piece, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Actually, when drawing, I just thought maybe I'll do one of them in front of you, just to show you how this final detail process is coming along. So let's do this guy here. Basically, you just work on details, try to clean them up, add some edges start to think about the light, where the fish is darker, and when it's a bit lighter, you can just emphasize some shapes just like that. Yeah, this part is definitely the most time consuming, and of course it's up to you whether you like to leave it like that or make it sort of like almost surrealistic. But I hope you got the basic idea. I mean, as far as you go with finishing, it's totally up to you. They don't have to be very elaborate, or in some cases you want them to look like you almost want to touch these objects because they will look so real. And in the future episodes we will definitely be working on some of those images. But yeah, in this case, I mean, the good thing, as I mentioned earlier, is these are just sort of like a cartoon characters, so you can't get wrong. I mean, whatever you do, the fish will look like a fish, or at least will try to look like a fish. Fins, they have those kind of, they have a little structure to them. I'm not sure if I remember exactly, but as I said, this is my fish, and I'm happy about it. So yeah, more or less like this, and you basically move from one object to another. Our octopus, I'll leave it very loosely. They have those little kind of suction, I don't even know what's the proper term. Maybe you can leave the comment. Octopus. Yeah. Maybe let's add a bit of a pattern on the octopus body. Yeah, please share your comments. What do you think about what you see? This is new experience for me. I've been drawing for my entire life, but as far as tutorials, that's a new territory, and I would be happy to hear from you. What do you like, what you don't? I love constructive critique. I've learned so much from people that were able to tell me what they didn't like, and in most cases it was very helpful. I love positive comments. I love when people say they like what I do, but those ones who can add some critique, it brings so much to the table. It helped me so much in my artistic career. I'm always open for all kinds of comments. Okay, so I think we're getting close to the final touch. It's always a challenge to come to the point when you say, yeah, that's it, An artist always looking for some imperfections and moments where you can still add up a bit of extra to your drawing. But anyways, I think this image is finished, and I haven't had a chance to come up with a title. So if you can think of something interesting and funny and relevant to what you're gonna see in a second, hey, put it in the comment section under this video, and well, all that's left is to unveil what we came up with today. So please have a look and let me know what you think. Okay, so what do you think? Did you like it? Hey, please leave your comments in the comment section below this video. If you liked it, please like the video. If you didn't, no problem with a thumb down, just like in the ancient Rome gladiators games. Thumb down, we didn't like it. Also, definitely I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. I have so many new episodes in works, and they will be uploaded to this channel very shortly. In addition to that, I have created a Facebook profile called Setner Studio, and I think there would be a great platform for us to share our art, to share thoughts, to comment on what we do. So feel free to upload your artwork, feel free to post your comments. I think it's gonna be a great place, sort of like our own art gallery. And the last thing, if you would like to learn more about me, my background, where I come from, if you want to see more examples of my work, not only drawings, I also paint, I also do pastels, please visit my personal website at setnerstudio.com. For both Facebook and the website, both links are included in the description of this video underneath. And I guess that's pretty much it for that episode. Thanks again, until next time, and happy drawing!